All right, let's see how the stream is looking, sounding, all that good stuff. Let's see what we got here. Mm-mm-mm. Still not seeing it. Probably because I need to go public. All right, let's do that. New at this, folks. Learning as we go. Let's see if we are live currently. Here we go. All right, let's test this out. Okay. Audio is working. Yeah, so for whoever's watching, I don't know if you're live watching the recording, welcome. I am changing it up. Oh, hey, Eric, how's it going? Good evening from the Philly area. Good to see you. Yeah, so moving forward, I'm going to be live streaming each week. Just, time's been a bit shorter as I am a new dad. So it's a lot easier just to go live, chat with you all, than, editing all the videos and all that fun stuff. Yeah, so same format as usual, jumping right into it. We'll do a round recap of the last round. We'll talk through some shout outs of our MLS Fantasy Picks leagues, our open league, head-to-head league. I'll walk through 5 fantasy takeaways from the last round. We'll go into some key considerations for the next round, and then the usual locks for the week, clean sheet hunting, the final third, clearance rack, armband, and weekly poll. So a lot to run through. But yeah, I hope I'll improve my production value each week as I get used to the software and all this fun stuff. But learn best by doing. So just wanted to jump right in. I'll have my own video, screen share, all that fun stuff. So this is just the beginning of the next steps. So yeah, let's take a look at the last round. So last round, huge double game week. I ended with 148 points. So not the best. I had a weak rank of 2,136. Overall rank definitely dropped. I think I was sitting around like the 185 area. So now I'm at 240. So yeah, took some hits there. It was a pretty wild week. I know there was some variance across scores. So yeah, let's take a look at the squad. Look at what we did here. So I had Bush on the front end of Keeperoo. Wouldn't have mattered between him and Takaoka. Rest of the bench, I did end up, I think I had Dreyer in initially, or I swapped him in. Mihailovic, bit of a letdown, only 9 points here. And then Kuiper. So I think that switch to bring Rossi in was good, but I did have Musa from Dallas on my bench as well. So if I kept him, I think it would have been 6 more points there. So a bit disappointing from the switcher or auto-roo side of things. But yeah, not too bad. I think the biggest drop, or at least one of the largest drops for me this week, was switching from heel. I don't know why I did it. Maybe because Hani was in such good form recently. I switched the captain armband over to him last minute, and then, Surge ended up taking all his points this past round. So Yeah, definitely looking at Heel still, solid points from him, and then Ojeda as well with the 19. So unfortunate for my captain pick with Hani. And then the final three defenders, I wasn't going to swap out. Feingold, I think, did he have up to 30 points one time? I don't know. He went off one double game week, and this week he left us with a 1. So just goes to show what can happen. I think he subbed on that second game for the Revolution, so a bit of a disappointment. Wagner with the 10, I'm fine with. And I tested it out to see if it'll work again. McVay did not get me the double 4 points each game, and he ended with a 5. So a bit disappointing there. And I feel like that was probably where a lot of people could have hit quite well. I think if we hop over to the Dream Team, a good amount of folks had Celentano. I don't know why the Dream Team's not. Oh, there it goes. Celentano, you got Farzi. I feel like he would have been a popular pick. You got some Minnesota guys here. Again, I didn't pick Evander. I think this is one of my lessons learned from the week. I was happy to swap in Dreyer, but yeah, Evander, after his disappointing weeks, I ended up not going with him. And then Musa, also someone I switched out, unfortunate. And then Surge with the 26, popular pick, I would think. So yeah, I missed out on some of the big hitters last week. All right, so let's hop over to our leagues. Don't worry, this isn't my team that I'm picking for this current round. I just auto-filled it for the sake of the video. So let's hop over to the Open League. Let's see how the folks did. So yeah, some big points here. Verks and Daniel's Dogs with the 180s. Clover Street Ultras 153. Haven't got a clue, 185. And Aiden here with 201. Huge points. So you've got some variance, definitely. Like me, lowly sitting at 148. You've got guys up in the 200s, 160s, 170s, 193. So yeah, definitely a lot of variance this double game week. A lot of good options to pick from, and some players really did go off. Oh yeah, and good call out there, Eric. I don't know who would have seen that with Sarah on the dream team there, but yeah, well done to Montreal getting on there. All right, let's hop over to the head-to-head. And yeah, good point, Eric. I have no idea what's going on with my head-to-head. Like if I do a matchup here, I can see who, I don't know why my MLS fantasy game is so slow today, but you can see, who you're up against, who they've picked, all that fun stuff. But in our own league, when I click that same matchup button, it's blank. So I have no idea why that glitched out on us this season. It started from the very beginning. Don't know what's going on there. But we can at least, still keep track of how we're looking. I'm down in 17th, 15-0-3 currently. We do have playoffs set up for this one, so it's still, anyone can get into that top of the table, and then at the very end of the season, we'll have some playoffs. So yeah, well done to everyone. No undefeated teams, some very strong teams still, and yeah, currently sitting at 45 points. All right, so key considerations for the round. I don't have the usual slide. I'll get to practicing the software here. But yeah, no, actually no, I skipped my 5 fantasy takeaways. What am I doing? This is what happens when you go live and you don't know what you're doing. All right, so looking at the past round, we've got, I guess my first one is to never doubt Evander. Let's look at the stats here. So we got 19 points, 13 from his goals and assists. It's 2 minutes. Key passes, shots, went off absolutely against Montreal. So he's still definitely a fantasy powerhouse. I don't know why I doubted him. He's definitely still someone we need to keep in mind week over week. And I would say the same thing about Heel. So Heel, his floor wasn't looking as good, but even he got 8 points with an assist against Nashville. And then how did he do against, what was the second game? Colorado. Even better. Goal. Look at those key passes, crosses, shots, all that fun stuff. So definitely keep an eye out on Heel as well. Another thing I'm curious your guys' thoughts is Surge and Hani. I feel like Hani was in a very good, set of form in the past few weeks. And then he only put up a 6. I didn't really watch any of these games this past week. But a 6, no goal contributions. And yeah, Surge is really, really coming into some good form with the amount of goals that he's scoring. So I'm not saying fade Hani, but Surge is definitely looking like the goal scorer. And, he's the PK taker after Hani was struggling early on this season. Gave it to Surge, and Surge has really stepped up, and I think he's coming into his own. The David Goss theorem, I think, this is his second season. Didn't have a great season last year. And, he's really starting to thrive over there in Nashville. In terms of the other side of teams that are struggling, the Galaxy are still struggling. I think they at least got a draw this past week. So they lost 2-0 against Colorado. And then, 1-1 against San Jose. So hard to target players for the Galaxy. I would still say look at those teams playing the Galaxy. And then my last point in terms of takeaways, I would just say San Diego. They're still impressing. 5 goals against Vancouver. Dreyer looking great, even though he's not scoring all of those goals, just really contributing, that main creator for San Diego. I think Lozano subbed in to the later part of the second game. Sorry I'm jumping around so much. But yeah, Dreyer still with 14 points. So he's definitely one of the strong players. You can still look at the other guys, but they're really just not as strong as Dreyer from a fantasy perspective. Yeah, you got Lozano. Oh, he did score. Looks like he came in late, probably coming off his injury. So yeah, I expect as Lozano comes back, maybe Dreyer loses a bit of points, but at the same time, he's still there creating alongside with Lozano. All right, so let's hop into the key considerations, as I mentioned before, for the round. Excuse me. Key considerations. I normally can cut that out in my other videos. But key considerations for the round. You've got the game starting on Thursday. So New York City FC at home against Toronto. Good option for your switcheroos. You got Thursday game, Friday game, Saturday games, and then Sunday as well. So a lot of good options for switcheroos. I would say Gold Cup is still continuing. We're in the final stages. I think the U.S. is still in it after I watched the highlights today. Well done to Matt Freese on the PKs. Just a fantastic performance from him. But yeah, so those U.S. players will still be out. I don't know how soon the other guys will be trickling back in. For example, you got Martinez from NYC FC. Curious if he's available. Someone to definitely look for. And as always, keep an eye out for those player availability reports and the disciplinary summary. Okay, so that finishes up my key considerations for the round. Let's hop into my locks for the week. So I'll clear this out. So from a defensive standpoint, not a whole lot from my side. I don't know if I'm really locked into anyone this week. We usually look at guys like Wagner, but he hasn't looked too great unless he's getting clean sheets. And I believe they're away this week against, they played Columbus last week, but yeah, still against Nashville. And Hani and Surge are looking good. So yeah, no locks for me this week for defense, but I would say from a midfield standpoint, 2 guys that are locks for me are Dreyer and Evander. And when I say locks, these are guys that I'm starting outright. No, they're not on my bench. They're not, part of the switcheroos, all that fun stuff. So yeah, they're definitely straight out locks. Dryer's at home against Houston and Evander's at home against Chicago. Great matchups, and they're in great form recently. And then from a forward standpoint, I'm definitely looking at Messi and Arango this week. So Messi, just because he's back, they are away against Montreal. So yeah, I would assume he's traveling. I mean, they're coming off a pretty rough loss in the Club World Cup. So I'll just be watching news there. There's plenty of great options if Messi is not playing in Montreal this week. And then Chicho, he's been, putting up good points, not just from goals, but bonus points. So I always look for that in a forward. And they're at home against the Red Bulls. So I think that's a great matchup there. So yeah, those are my locks for the week. So I would have a fancy transition here. I will learn that eventually. But for now, moving on to clean sheet hunting. So clean sheets, I was looking at matchups this week, looking at odds, all that fun stuff. And I do like NYCFC. against Toronto. So not necessarily Freeze, as he'll be with the U.S. men's national team, but Romero. I think Romero helped out a lot of us. I ended up dropping him. But in a previous round where they played early, he's definitely someone you could just throw on your bench, watch that Thursday game, see how it goes. But some other options I like are, I think, RSL even. They have a decent matchup against St. Louis. St. Louis have really been struggling to score, and RSL even, I think, helped me out a couple weeks back with some clean sheets. So you can always look at Cabral as a good option for keepers. Some other keepers as well. You got Colorado. Let's see who they're up against this week. SKC. I think Hansen had some good clean sheets last week. I think Vancouver, another potential option because they're playing the Galaxy. They are away, so always a risk there. And then I'd definitely say Nashville. Sorry to say, they're playing my Union this week, but they had some clean sheets last game week. And Philly, they've just been missing some of their main guys. I think they're still forming back together after all the international call-ups, so it could be a good option there. And then I'd also finish out with San Diego playing Houston. So some decent options there for keepers this week. I think I'm looking at an NYC to RSL at the moment. But yeah, I'm curious to see what other players are thinking. So when it comes to defense, also for clean sheets, same thing. NYCFC, I like Martins. He's also been looking better from a bonus point standpoint. So even if he doesn't get the clean sheet, he coming off a bit of a sickness from last week, as you can probably hear. He's still putting up some bonus points for his passes. So even if he doesn't get the clean sheet, potential for some bonus points for some passes there. From an attacking upside, I would still look at Feingold as long as he starts. He's still putting up good points when he's playing the full 90. Wagner as well, mainly because of his his set piece availability. And then Orjano honestly surprised me to see his big points the last game. 12, still decent, but they're playing Chicago. Chicago definitely could score. But yeah, I feel like he's still contributing on the offensive side of things. So yeah, those are my options I'm looking at from a clean sheet standpoint. So moving on to the final third. So the final third here, I'll be walking through my favorites in the midfield and forward side of things. So outside of Dreyer and Evander that I called out earlier, I do like Heel. He's against Portland. Portland are not known for their defense. Heel's got a crazy floor. He is the guy in New England. He is probably in my lineup this week. Other guys I like, still Mukhtar, though I probably won't play him due to my homer for Philly, and he just let me down last week, so that was a bit of a burn. From Mukhtar, Ojeda, I like a lot. Put up big 19 points in the double game week. And they're playing Charlotte, who have not been the Charlotte that we've known from the past. And then there's a lot of great options. I mean, Espinoza also put up some big numbers last week. So I feel he is a bit more risky. You could see he put up 14, which we love to see, but then he put up a 3 against the Galaxy, which is not really like him. So I see him more as a bench play. He can definitely hit. So yeah, but I still like Espinoza. And then who else do I got? I think my last pick, one of my favorites, would be Zinkernagel. They are away, but Cincinnati's defense this year also hasn't been awesome. And look, good, solid 18 from the last double game week. And then, as I said, even if Messi's not playing, there's still plenty of good forward options. Of course, like I said, Surridge in absolute great form. Denke from Cincinnati. He put up, 9 isn't incredible. Let's just look at how he did last double game week. 4 and a 5, but that's, with an assist. So, Evander, probably the main guy in Cincinnati, but Denke, I feel, is still a good option against its Chicago side that lets him plenty of goals. Kuipers as well. I had him last week. 11, not amazing. And then Musa, is he back? Where is he against Minnesota? Maybe that Minnesota defense is pretty strong. I probably should have kept with him. Looks like he's in some good form there, scoring some goals. But yeah, I feel like Musa's always solid, at least recently, a decent look. Okay, so moving on to our next segment, I call the clearance rack. So when I first started the channel, I always did a lot of focus on budget. So like budget looks, standard price players, premium players. So I try to keep this one in here, as that's sort of how the channel started. And it's always fun to look for those players that you're not breaking the bank on that can still get you some solid points. So some defenders that I'm looking at from a clearance or cheap side. One of them is Ocampo. Oh, what's up, FPL Thomas? Welcome to the show. We've moved on to the clearance rack section. So right now I'm just going through some of my favorite sort of cheap options. I don't know if Ocampo is still going to be a good option this week. I'll look at lineups. But I did see he was playing out of position in the last couple of games. He had a goal, clean sheet, and they're playing the Galaxy. So it could be a sneaky play here for Vancouver. Just got to see where he's looking from a lineup standpoint. And the other guy I've got probably in my lineup this week is DeJuan Jones. He is at home against the Red Bull, and he'll let you down some weeks, but he also can put up some decent numbers. So yeah, good matchup against the Red Bull, and he always has that attacking threat. So moving on to some midfielders that I like that won't really break the bank. First one, I think I've got Shambo here from Columbus. So I was pretty surprised to see his points from the last double game week, a 9 and a 5. It's a good floor. You like to see it. So yeah, if you need to save some money, I think Shambo could be a decent look with Columbus. And then another option I'm looking at also, may even be in my squad, is Acosta, which is hard to believe. Someone that we used to always look at from a fantasy perspective. Ever since he's moved to Dallas, that really hasn't been the same. But yeah, 6 and a 6. I mean, I'll take it. It's a solid floor. But yeah, I guess the matchup's kind of tough against Minnesota United. So yeah, we'll see if I end up keeping him in. I'll see what other players are thinking for this week. But I feel like he's a fun, differential play. Maybe him and Musa are starting to click again. And then if you're looking to save some money up top at striker, I've got Klaus from St. Louis. So he did have a decent bit of form. I mean, a 12 isn't even that bad. Yeah, he got a goal and then a 3. So not amazing. And they're away at Real Salt Lake. But he's still one of those cheaper strikers at only 7.7. And then as well, Ponce for Houston. He's scoring goals. So these guys, they're the main strikers for their squads. But honestly, the matchups aren't great. Like I called out these clean sheets or options for the defensive sides for these teams, RSL and San Diego. So not your best options up top. But if you really need to save some cash, these guys are starters and the main strikers for the squads. All right. So we're working right through things here. Thanks everyone for watching. Let's move on to the armband section. So this is where I like to chat through some of my favorite options for captains for the week. So for me, I'm always a midi guy when it comes to captains, unless it's Messi. So these are my three favorites for the week. As it's not a surprise, these are my locks for the week. Dreyer, great matchup against Houston. Put up some crazy numbers last week. Same for Evander, even crazier numbers. And they're at home against Chicago. I'll definitely be between the two here, maybe leaning more towards Dreyer. We'll see what lineups look like. And then Messi, of course, if he's playing and traveling to Montreal. All right, so finishing things up, I'll hop over to the YouTube channel. So I did post, looks like we've got some votes coming in already, so thanks everyone for voting. So the usual, who scores more points in MLS Fantasy Round 19? I've got some similar, I always like to do similar price points and similar, matchups where players are either both away, both at home. This week, I've got some two powerhouses of Dreyer and Evander. So Dreyer's at home against Houston, Evander at home against Chicago. Let me know, guys. I've got the poll over in my post section of the channel. Feel free to drop a vote. I'm curious to see what you guys think. All right, so that wraps up my live stream for the week. Thanks, everyone, for joining. As I said, it's a bit easier for me being a new dad, just sort of live streaming moving forward. I'll look to improve the production value in the future, add some transitions, video of myself, all that fun stuff, but at least wanted to get things started here. All right, thanks, everyone. Hope you had a good round 18 and looking forward to the next one starting soon. And as always, good luck. Thanks, everyone.